Real quick guys, if you guys wouldn't mind, please be sure to consider going down your item shop and typing in BAY for your supported creator code, BEY, and then clicking accept. This will support me greatly and it will not cost you anything, so please be sure to do this, and let's get right into the video. Hey, what's up guys? Before I start this video, I just wanted to mention real quick that all of the gameplay in this video was gotten straight from twitch.tv/usecodebay. Before this gameplay was on the channel, I streamed it live on my Twitch stream. I'm streaming live right now as you guys are watching this video. After you watch this video, please be sure to come down to my stream and watch me play some games. I'm going to be playing lots of competitive gameplay, champion level arena duos, pro scrims, and I will also be playing with subscribers sometimes and viewers who are watching my Twitch stream. So please be sure to come tune in and let's get right into this video. So if you guys are watching this video, you're basically wondering, how in the world are controller players becoming better than keyboard and mouse players? This is not something random that I'm just claiming. This can be seen within the leaderboards of recent tournaments in Fortnite. It can be seen in creative. It can be seen in just about every single aspect of competitive content and skill-wise Fortnite, or anything that really has to do with Fortnite in general. Now, before we get into it, I just want to say, please be sure to subscribe to my channel, because in the near future, I'm going to be uploading my ultimate guide to finding your perfect sensitivity for controller and console players. This guide will be one of the best guides on YouTube. I can guarantee you guys that. So please be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because that video is coming out soon, and I know a lot of you guys are going to be looking forward to it. Now, without further ado, let's get right into the tips. So fairly recently, what you guys can notice across pretty much the entire Fortnite scene is that controller players are starting to absolutely dominate when it comes to events, when it comes to tournaments, and when it just comes to overall gameplay. If you're on Twitter, pretty much the only thing you see on your feed is going to be pros and keyboard and mouse players talking about aim assist and how they think it's overpowered, and how they think that it's the reason why controller players are dominating the Fortnite scene. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's much more than just aim assist, and although aim assist may play a small factor, the largest factor and the most underrated factor is one that I will be discussing in this video, and I'll also be going over whether or not aim assist should be nerfed and whether or not it really is the reason that controller players perform so much better recently. So obviously, the removal of legacy has recently sparked a lot of debate about whether or not linear and exponential are still overpowered. This is because linear has a very fast and responsive kind of feel, and with the introduction of linear to the game, many pro players have switched to it, and linear has created this skill gap that has never been in the game before. If you think about it, exponential is essentially legacy without the left trigger spam. So exponential is nothing new. But linear was a brand new aim input that was added into the game once legacy was removed and when exponential was introduced as the new option for legacy. With this, a lot of pros in the beginning did not switch to it. Everyone thought that linear was a very bad input and that it was simply too fast and too crazy to actually be used for accurate aiming. But now everything has changed, and almost every single pro controller player who has earnings and who is consistent in the pro community is one that plays on linear. And this has sparked debate about whether or not linear is still an overpowered aim assist, and with the very good performance of the controller players, it doesn't really help the case that aim assist may be overpowered. But I'm here to tell you guys that it's actually not. Linear aim assist, although it may seem overpowered because of the fact that most pros use it, is only overpowered because of the fact that it's so responsive and quick. It has changed the way that pro controller players aim, and it is not because of aim assist. Because of linear's super fast responsiveness and because of how quick and fast it is, it's made controller players much more good at aiming when being compared to keyboard and mouse players. Keyboard and mouse players have the ability to basically aim with their wrist and their whole arm, which gives them the ability to quickly turn and quickly aim when they need to. But controller players don't have this because all they have access to is analog sticks, and analog sticks with exponential had that gradual increase, which would never allow controller players to be able to play quickly. But with the introduction of linear, basically the speed at which a controller player can input something and the speed at which they can turn, aim, and move has increased significantly only because of linear's mechanics. But not just this. Now you guys may think, okay, so linear is the reason that everyone's doing good, and it's not just because of aim assist, it's because of the way that it's responsive. But that's not the only thing. The other thing is that Fortnite is one of the only games in the world where building is an aspect, and because of building, controller players no longer have to basically be at a disadvantage because of the aiming. In other games where keyboard and mouse and controller play on the same platform and there's no building, controller players have no skill gap, or they have no chance to out-aim a lot of good keyboard and mouse players. This is because keyboard and mouse players have more accuracy. They have their whole wrist, their whole arm to aim, and they have a much easier time aiming and basically being able to fine-tune their aiming and get better at it in different scenarios. But controller players can't do this simply because of the fact that they play on analog sticks. And Fortnite allows controller players to build to make up for that disadvantage. And this is what makes controller players so good. Now you may be wondering, what took controller players so long? Well, very recently, Epic also added the ability to raise your building and editing sensitivity above the 2x multiplier. With all of these changes that happened at the exact same time, it seemed like aim assist was the main reason that controller players got better. And this was because all the pros and all of the people that competed for money got salty that their placements and basically their earnings were being taken by controller players who are now recently starting to rise in the Fortnite competitive scene. And this basically made keyboard and mouse players angry, and their first instinct was to blame it on aim assist. And they thought that if they could basically complain about it and make it sound like it was the main reason that controller players were starting to earn more money, they could get Epic Games to basically change this major aspect of controller gameplay and nerf the aim assist. And it did work to an extent where Epic Games nerfed controller aim assist on PC, but this nerf wasn't an actual nerf. It was more of a balancing tune, and it was a fair thing because it now put console players and PC controller on PC players at a fair playing field. But it didn't really change the aim assist that much, and none of the controller pros really fell at a disadvantage because of this. And because of the fact that they don't solely rely on aim assist to be good players, it shows that controller players don't need aim assist, and it's not the reason why they are dominating the competitive scene. Controller players on linear have now had the chance to basically compete against keyboard and mouse players because of the input and the mechanic. Now very soon on my channel I'll be uploading a video on why you should switch to linear, how you can switch to linear efficiently, and how you can basically become a very good player on linear and make your transition to it very smoothly. I'll be uploading this video very soon, so please be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to know when it's live. But there's also one more thing that I need to tell you guys before this video ends, and that is also having to do with the myths that go around with controller players. So very recently, players like Bully, players like Scoped, and other players in the controller community that have sparked outrage amongst keyboard and mouse players because of the fact that they're placing, earning a lot of money, and dominating in tournaments, but they don't have good editing and building mechanics. And this is probably one of the funniest things that has happened because it makes players honestly think that controller players are only good because of their aim assist. But here's the truth, guys. These players that are on controller have focused on their aim constantly. They've practiced their aim over and over again because these are the guys that don't have good mechanics, and they're the ones that don't practice their mechanics. These controller players that don't have the ability to edit and build fast are the ones that spend all their time practicing their aim, and they're constantly perfecting their craft. Almost no keyboard and mouse player does this because of the fact that keyboard and mouse players like to have good mechanics, and it is just a well-known thing for keyboard and mouse players to be good at building and editing. So for controller players, it's more common for them to be focused on their aiming, and that's basically what's happened with these players. Players like Bully, who don't really build and they mainly focus on just lasering and dominating people with their aim, only do this because of the amount of practice and time they've put in, not because of the aim assist. Players like Bully, who don't focus on anything but their mechanics in aiming, are taking advantage of this because aiming is the most important aspect in Fortnite. And to give you guys a good example of this, here is a keyboard and mouse player who focuses incredibly on his aiming, and this guy cannot build and edit even as good as Faceway, and he's on keyboard and mouse, and almost every single one of you watching this video knows him. His name is Tfue. Yes, Tfue. Tfue, although he is very good, he places in solo tournaments, he places in duo tournaments, he dominates in competitive events, but his building and editing is not as good as people like Face Sway and other people who have incredible mechanics. The thing Tfue relies on is his aim, and that rests my case, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.